Heart There we go. Every once in a while you click pause and it's just like, nah, man, I'm just going to keep jamming to this music. Just need to tell it to chill. All right. Good morning, everyone. Or nope, correction. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike Dane with MLS Technology. Today we're going to be doing a presentation of the SentriKey showing service. This is a recent addition to your member benefits. The class today is a CE credit. When we initially applied for this, this was actually supposed to be a elective CE credit class, but they gave it as a hot CE credit. I think partly in anticipation of any changes that might occur to this product. They're expecting that, you know, if you end up having something dramatic change to it, you might need to end up reteaching the material after the fact. But for now, everything's pretty much the same, but you guys do have the option to take this class more than once if you need to kind of glean what you can from it in case there's any changes. Anyway, we are going to run through a couple basic things about the webinar before we get started with the actual course content. First and foremost, I wanted to mention that you guys are going to start on mute by default. There is a Q&A button down at the very bottom of the screen so that if you guys do have a question during the course, you can always post in there. I'm going to offer an alternative to you as well that has the option to get you unmuted. Since this is a relatively short class, just an hour-long class, we try to avoid that if at all possible. But if you have a question, please don't hesitate. We still want to make sure that everybody's getting what they need out of this. Also, I wanted to point out we have the chat option down at the bottom. This is where you guys can post any comments, examples, stories that you want to share, situations, whatever the case may be. But please try to make sure that you get all of your questions posted into the Q&A. The Q&A makes a little bit more of a notification to me if I end up having somebody ask a question. The chat really doesn't do much of anything. It just has the text there, and unless I'm actually looking at it, it's really not going to be doing much. So if you guys need a more immediate response to the question, or if it's relevant to something I'm currently talking about, try to make sure that it's posted into the Q&A. Also, I wanted to point out the recording is going to be sent off to you guys after class is over. So expect an email. It'll come with some extra instructions, some guides, content. But if you do have any issues today with the class, as far as audio or video, please make sure you let me know, either in the chat, Q&A. I really don't care. If there's a problem with your ability to actually listen to and participate in the class, we want to make sure that that gets fixed as quickly as possible. We don't want to end up denying credit to people just because of some kind of technical issue, you know. As far as the CE credit itself, we will be sending the information off today just to make sure that OREC has that data. Whether or not that gets added to your license is going to kind of be dependent on how quickly they're able to process that information and get it set up. But I know that they're redoing their system, or they were redoing their system. I'm not sure if that process has been expedited, but I'm going to double check on that today probably just to make sure. Anyway, as far as the buttons that you guys have access to, there's the chat option down there at the bottom of your screen, as well as Q&A. We also have this raise hand option. I'm going to be using this occasionally as kind of like a impromptu poll situation. But I also wanted to mention, if you do have a question that you want to ask with your voice, like maybe it's a little bit too cumbersome to have to type it out, or you're not very quick at typing like I am, that might be something that you may need to just ask with your voice. Hit that raise hand button. I'll get you unmuted and you can ask your question. I also wanted to mention that we do have a little bit different layout on the bottom of the screen if you're participating on a mobile device, an iPhone, Android phone, any kind of tablet. If you are on one of those devices, you may need to tap the screen in order for your buttons to appear down at the bottom. But that should allow you guys to do the same things. Again, raise hand will be especially important if you guys are joining us on a mobile device. Typing out the questions might be a little cumbersome or a little bit bogged down by comparison to doing it on a computer. But other than that, buttons serve the same function, go to the same place. So make sure any questions go to Q&A, stories, comments, go to chat. All right, it's 1:05. We're going to go ahead and officially start the course content. I'm going to be launching a poll. This is going to be directly related to whether or not we can give you CE credit. So I do need everyone to participate in this poll. It's only 4 questions long. It's just asking if you're new to real estate. Are you currently using a SentriLock key box? Have you previously used our showing time service that we still currently have access to, or its predecessor, the centralized showing service, which was actually purchased by Showing Time, interestingly enough? And then also, have you guys used the SentriKey showing service already? So again, just as a reminder, in order to give you CE credit, I do need to see that everyone has participated in the poll. So just make sure to put in your answers and we can go ahead and move on. Kristen, I do see you got your hand up. There you go. It should have a prompt on your screen to unmute.
Mine won't let me scroll down and answer the questions.
Oh. Is it presenting maybe one question at a time, or is it just that
It
it's
gives
not
me the
being scrolled?
first 2 questions, but then I can't access the 3rd question.
Are you using a mouse, or is this a laptop with trackpad?
It's a trackpad.
Oh, okay. And doing the 2 fingers up or down isn't allowing you to scroll?
There we go. It maybe like tap on the side of it for it to go. I don't know why. Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
oh, no, that's okay. No, again, I want to make sure everybody's able to do stuff. So excellent. Just making sure. All right. So we got everybody's answers in. I appreciate that. Since everybody was on time today as well, we should be able to give you guys all CE credit as long as you stick around to the end. All right. So I'm going to share the results here real quick. Some of this will actually curate what we're going to be discussing today. But it looks like we have about half the class, actually exactly half the class is either new or relatively new to real estate. About half of you guys are veterans. We've got most of you guys using the SentriLock key boxes already. For those of you guys who are not, good news is you don't have to worry about using the key boxes. The systems that we're going to be discussing today are completely independent from the key boxes. So you can use them without having to buy a box, or even if you guys have access to SentriKey, but you don't, or SentriLock, but you don't use a key box, this isn't going to be related to that. The showing service is separate. Now, we have actually the majority of you guys have used either Showing Time or CSS. That's good. We're going to be doing a lot of analogies towards the previous systems. This is also, at least for some behind the scenes information, Showing Time has been the best product that we've offered as far as the showing service goes. So even though we have a lot of little things that we're missing from the SentriKey showing service, I want to mention that we are trying to treat this Showing Time service as the kind of gold standard that we're hoping that the SentriKey showing service will at some point be able to match completely. Thankfully, they're working with us, that we actually have meetings with them often. So while we're going through this course today, if you guys notice something that maybe you would like for us to request, or if there's something that's not processing properly whenever you're using this system, please don't hesitate to let us know. We've made sure that we've got open communication between us and our SentriKey liaison. Any recommendations, any improvements that you guys might want, please let us know, because we want to make sure that we're accommodating the needs of people that are actually using the product. And then finally, how many of you guys have actually used the SentriKey showing service? It looks like 9 of you guys have so far, so a quarter of you have not. That's okay. We're going to be going through the basics as well as offering some little bit more nuanced, advanced functionality while we discuss things. So we'll just go ahead and jump in. All right, results are off the screen. So let's first talk about the SentriKey showing service. I'm going to pull up the, actually get signed back in again. Make sure. Oh, of course, since it's, okay, there we go. Now we should be seeing what you guys actually have access to. All right. So the SentriKey showing service, And I apologize, this is just a little spiel that they have me read at the beginning, but the SentriKey showing service is the real estate industry's first and only combined solution for managing showings, client communication, and property access. Now, it's being presented as a comprehensive solution, which is fully integrated with the SentriKey real estate lockbox system that you guys are already using or have access to through our association or potentially even your own association, which helps agents stay organized, spend more time selling, and deliver great experiences to buyers and sellers. Now, so much of the real estate process is manual, time consuming, with change being really the only constant. Now, agents are always on the go, find themselves managing constantly changing schedules, market conditions, and client needs. So by leveraging state-of-the-art technology on a cloud-based platform, the SentriKey showing service provides an easy-to-use, powerful, and mobile-friendly system. It's also integrated with the MLS tools that you guys are already using. So it's built into Matrix and has some connections there. The showing solution revolutionizes the real estate professional's world and provides a path to top producer success. So with just one app, an agent can find appropriate properties, send them to the client, schedule showings, build a daily itinerary, plan a driving route, and review the property's listing details, open the lockboxes of the showings, view showing instructions, property details, and even solicit client feedback, which rates the properties and more. So we're going to get started with the basics. Whenever you guys first get signed into the system, so whether you guys are doing that either from the SentriKey button that's found on your MLS portal, or if you guys are in Matrix and you click on the SentriKey icon, which is this little yellow icon, this is just for some clarity, Sam, which is the SentriKey assistant for mobile, is the actual icon here, but we just decided that that's going to be a visually interesting icon that you guys can recognize. You'll also see the same icon on listings, which we'll discuss later. But when you first get signed into the system, we want to make sure that we get all the practical matters taken care of first. So for those of you guys who have been through Matrix or even our RPR class that we did earlier today, we always want to make sure that our profiles and our account information is all up to date first. So once you guys have gotten into the SentriKey interface, zoom this in, there's going to be a button over here on the left-hand side that says Manage My Account. If you guys are already in the system, you might not see that button. It may be hidden away under this little home icon. You can also reach that account setting information by going to My Settings. Either way that you do that, whether you do the little icon and then My Settings or Manage My Account, it should bring you to an interface that looks like this. Now from here, let me know if you guys are having trouble seeing the screen, by the way, if there's anything that's too small or too large or whatever. When you guys first arrive on the settings screen or the Manage My Account screen, again, same thing, you should be presented with the email and cell phone number slots. Make sure that you guys put in your current email address. When you hit save, it should automatically send verification email to you. There's also a spot for the cell phone number. After you guys put the information in here, there's going to be a little verify with the SMS code. You'll need to put that in there to ensure that you guys will actually receive the notifications. Now, first and foremost, this registration process is actually required for everything to function properly. So even if you guys don't plan on using this to present showings, so like if you guys are still going to be using showing time or not even just using a digital showing service at all, make sure that you are registered in here. Because if you try to schedule a showing on a listing that already has this set up, you may find that you have some difficulty doing so unless you guys have already gone through and put in your email address at minimum. You don't even have to put in your cell phone number necessarily. It just makes things easier if you need to receive text notifications or whatever the case may be. But again, make sure that you guys get this email put in, even if you don't do anything else that we're going to be discussing today. Now, there is a reciprocal region down here at the bottom. We get an inordinate amount of calls on this. This is not indicating to you that you guys are a part of Texoma or that you guys are in some way signed up with Texoma. There is no relation to this. This is actually just letting you guys know that we have a separate association that is feeding over some of their listing data into our system so that they all have access to everything all the time. So you don't have to worry about this. This is literally just saying there's more data, and that's it. If you do end up having any other accounts with SentriKey, you can add those on there, but this really doesn't serve any utility for us. You guys will all have your own account. Make sure that your account settings also have the correct information in here, including if you guys have any device history, making sure that you don't end up including too many devices on there, or if you guys find that you've switched over to a new device and it's telling you it can't put the SentriKey account onto that device for the app, you may have to come in here and double check your device history and see if there's any devices that aren't in use anymore. Now, additionally, this is also where you guys can add in team members. So for instance, if we do end up having a team member that we wanted to include, this can be officially a team member. So like if you guys have a OREC team that's been established or something like that, or even if it's just an internal team that you guys are all working together, want to make sure that you have access to each other's listings if you go on vacation, whether it's something really stringent or if it's just something casual, you can add those team members. All you have to do is just type in their name. Like if I wanted to add Ethan, type in Ethan Long, make sure that I have the correct person, and then hit the plus button. Now, what happens on his end is that he's going to receive a notification asking if I can include him as a team member. This will allow me to access his listings and his showing information in SentriKey. So not, add, edit. We're not going to be able to change details about his listing. We're only going to be able to see the information as far as the lockbox and the showing service is concerned. Again, since most of the time, that's what's going to be the most important thing for people if they go on vacation, is making sure that showings might still be able to occur and stuff like that, not actually changing details about the listing. This can be incredibly beneficial. We're going to be skipping the lockbox settings option, head straight down to that showing settings. Now the showing settings, we're going to see the option to upgrade to a higher level of the offerings. You guys can look into this if you would like. Pretty much everything that you would actually need is included with the MLS integration plan. We tried to make sure that everything that everybody would be using on an everyday basis is actually going to appear on here without having to pay anything extra. There was some cool features that they decided that they wanted to charge a premium for, and that's actually in the select plan. And there's even more features that are included in the premium plan, but these are not required to do anything that we're going to be discussing today. And you guys might find that even the stuff that they add on with the extra monthly fees really might not be necessary anyway, but it might make life a lot easier. So if you guys are interested, you guys can research that at your leisure. But that's only going to be found under the showing settings and the upgrade now option. The rest of the information on this screen is going to be focused on the showing agent preferences. So this is going to be my personal preferences whenever I'm scheduling a showing for somebody else's listing. And then we also have our listing agent preferences, which is going to define how the listings will be set up whenever I get a new listing in Matrix. Now, the showing agent preferences are fairly basic. This is just going to let us know that whenever we try and schedule a showing, it's going to ask whether this is a first showing or not. And this will just default us to that first showing option. Same thing goes with our default appointment length for new appointments. It's going to automatically try and max out to 90 minutes. This is still going to oblige any of the settings that the listing agent had set up. So for instance, my default may be 90, but that listing that I'm trying to schedule a showing for may have set it so that the maximum appointment length is only 60 minutes. So it'll still try and hit that 90 unless something says you can only do 60 or 30 minutes, and that'll max it out anyway. So listing agent preferences. This is where we have the option to just mass turn off any showings for any of our properties, regardless of whether or not we'd previously set it up to say yes. So if you do end up deciding that you don't want to use the showing service whatsoever, you can flip this switch over to no, hit save, and that'll turn off all the showings. Now, this might be especially important for those of you guys who are not setting up the team members. If you guys do end up going out of town, or you need to block off a time period, or you don't know when you're going to be back in the office because you're dealing with something important, you can hit that no option. Just as a reminder though, this means that no one will be able to schedule anything in the indefinite future either. So it's not just blocking out a specific time frame, it's blocking out all showing requests. Beyond that, we have our default appointment mode. these are going to be the settings that will automatically be added whenever a new listing gets put into the system. So the default appointment mode comes in 3 different variants. Zoom out so we can actually see what they say. The first one is going to be appointment required, confirm with any. Now, just as a reminder, we have the option to add in team members. We can also add sellers as the confirming parties. But if you do end up deciding that you want to just have anybody do the approvals, this first option, which is the default option, is the best choice. This means that if you have a seller that ended up getting the notification before you did, or maybe you have the seller as the only person that's supposed to be doing these appointment approvals, they'll be able to approve it, and that appointment is scheduled. If you set it to appointment confirmed or appointment required confirmed with all, what this means is that every party that's actually able to confirm an appointment has to in order for that listing to receive that showing. This isn't necessarily the best option, but if you do end up wanting to make sure that there's some consensus with whether or not that particular time frame should work, this confirm with all option is a really good choice. Finally, we have the go and show choice. And for those of you guys who were in showing time or CSS before it, the go and show functions the exact same way. There is no appointment restrictions with go and show, which means that anybody who requests an appointment, no matter what time it is, will be able to actually get that appointment scheduled. End of story. No nuance, no requirements, no anything really. The only thing that it actually will try and check is if the system doesn't allow for overlapping appointments. So this isn't necessarily recommended. When we get to the modification of the listings showing settings, I'm going to show you guys how you can use this appointment required confirm with any to do everything that you guys might be interested in doing, whether it's an automatic approval of certain timeframes, or if you guys want to block out certain timeframes, all of that can be done with appointment required, so that you wouldn't even necessarily need to ever use that go and show unless you guys have, like, I don't know, vacant land or something. So next, we've got our maximum appointment length for showing. Again, these are going to be the defaults that you guys will have applied whenever a new listing comes in. So I would recommend that you try and set this towards what your most common appointment length should be. So for instance, if you think that an hour-long appointment might be appropriate for pretty much every listing that you're working with, you can leave this as the default. And then if you do have that one listing that, you know, maybe it's a really small house, or maybe it's just you guys show up, you take a look at the tiny little space, and that's the end of it, you can set this to just the 30 minutes. But you also have the option to go all the way up to 2 hours. So if you guys have an expansive property that's kind of typical of your normal situation, you can set that to 2 hours, and then every new listing will have 2 hours unless you tell it otherwise. Finally, we have our overlapping appointment option. Again, this is just going to prevent us from having appointments that are scheduled at the same time as another appointment. We'll be discussing that a little bit more later, but make sure to set this according to what your default preferences should be. Because again, that's what we're working with here, is what's going to apply no matter what. So if you guys do have overlapping appointments all the time, that could have some issues, but again, we'll talk about the nuance of that later. Now, once you guys have set this up to the way that you would like it, make sure to hit save. It'll give you a prompt telling you that you've made those changes properly. Finally, we have our notifications settings. This is going to be something that I would recommend you guys take a look at after class is over. Make sure that you know what the options are that you would like, or whenever you're getting appointments on your own listings, how do you want to be notified? All of this is going to be independent of how the listings will be approved. So, or excuse me, how the appointments will be approved. This is all going to be in relation to what happens if an appointment gets confirmed or canceled, regardless of who's doing the confirmation. So make sure all of this is set the way that you would like it. I typically recommend that you have the feedback requests set over to yes. And I mean, it might be handy to also receive the notifications by email and text. But if you guys don't like email, I hate email. Kind of drives me nuts when we have options like text messages, instant messaging, stuff like that. But if you don't want those, simply uncheck them and you're good to go. All right. So again, make sure if you do any changes, hit save. Now let's actually move on to our dashboard. So we've got all our settings set up. We've got our name, our email address, everything is loaded in properly. We ended up adding our team members if we had any. We've got our showing preferences set. So let's head over to our dashboard. Now this is going to be found under the My Schedule setting. Whenever we click on Dashboard, it's going to start us off with me. So it's not actually showing my team member information quite yet. But whenever I show up here, I've got all of my showings that I'm going to be having either on my listings or showings that are going to be, in this case, on a different person's property that I'm going to show with my client. You can set this to either be today, tomorrow, all of them, or any of the ones in the past. And we can also delineate between showings that I have, meaning these are only going to be the showings on other people's properties, or we can see only the property showings on my own listings. And then we also have a separate section over here to the side where we can see the appointment details. So if we have a showing that's sometime in the future, we can actually see that appointment, click on it, and find out more details about it. So for instance, right now I'm signed in as the training agent, and it looks like my evil twin, Mike, has scheduled an appointment for this already. Oh, and it was canceled. All right. So the dashboard's fairly simple, but this is a great place. If it were me, this would be my home screen. But just remember, this is under My Schedule and Dashboard. Now, if you guys like the way that this looks, great. You guys can switch between your team members. But oftentimes we may actually like seeing a little bit more traditional view of the calendar and what's going to be happening either in the future or the past. So I'm going to head over to the calendar option. So again, under My Schedule, Calendar. And this shows me an overview when we can either set it up by month or switch it over to just a week by week basis. This is going to be a better view if you guys have a lot of appointments, especially multiple appointments per day, or you guys can set it up on a monthly basis. And I can switch back to, there we go. You can see any of the appointments that you have set up, as well as whether or not they were confirmed, whether or not they didn't end up getting confirmed. And you can click on this click for more details option to see what happened to it. And you also should have the option, if this was still an active request for a showing, you can do the approval or denial from there. Now, another great thing about the calendar view is that you can filter these all out. So if you guys do end up having maybe something specific that you wanted to double check on, like maybe I just wanted to see any of the completed showings, I can uncheck all the other checkboxes and make sure that I'm only seeing the ones that have actually been confirmed and completed. All right. There we go. Okay. Now, next thing we need to do is actually go ahead and start setting up our listings. The good news is that you guys will already have your listings imported over from Matrix. So whenever you get to this My Listings tab up here at the top, you should already see all of your listings that you have in Matrix added on here. Now, the listings won't necessarily have all of these details added in. For instance, it might not have the lockbox serial number in there, or you might not have access to the access code or SentriKey quite yet. But it's fairly simple to get this stuff set up. The only thing you have to remember is just to click on the column, or excuse me, the row here in an area that doesn't have a link to it. So for instance, if I just click on the address or click on the MLS number, that'll bring me into the Appointment Settings tab. So again, we start off on this My Listings page with all of your listings listed out. Click on one of the listing numbers or address, whatever, and it'll bring you into this Appointment Settings. Now you'll notice there's a drop down up here at the top. So if I wanted to switch between any of my listings, so especially for those of you guys who have multiple listings in here, you'll see each of these has an entry of its own. So if you wanted to switch to a different listing, or maybe I clicked on the wrong one, or just wanted to do them all in quick succession, you can click on that drop down, choose the next one, and move on with your details. Now, the Appointment Settings tab, what this is going to show us is at least a couple familiar options. Here we have allow overlapping appointments. We've got the appointment mode, temporarily hold all of the appointments, what the default appointment length is, or advanced showing, as well as some auto confirmation and appointment restrictions. Now, first and foremost, the overlapping appointments, I usually like having that kind of as a separate spot, but the overlapping appointments is going to have to be something you do on a kind of more contextual basis. So this is going to require you guys to put some effort into, is this something that I actually want multiple people in the property at once? That could be very beneficial if you guys end up having a property that's kind of hot. Lots of people going through there. If you guys have overlapping appointments, people might see that there is interest in the property and then subsequently maybe try and make an offer or start bidding more. But the allow overlapping appointments also has some security risks to it. So beyond obviously, don't want to have that many people in that small of a space for that long. I mean, COVID stays in the air for what, 3 hours or something like that. So having multiple people in the property at the same time could be dangerous on that front. But even beyond the pandemic, if we do end up allowing overlapping appointments and worst case scenario, something goes missing or gets broken, or there's somebody that didn't realize the house was winterized and used the bathroom, those kinds of issues can get a little bit murky whenever you have multiple people on the property at the same time. So finding out what happened, who did what, can be a little bit difficult. So there's pros and cons to it. Again, make sure that you guys are setting that appropriately to whatever the property's needs are or whatever the safety requirements are for that particular client. Now, the temporarily hold all showing requests is going to be something a little different. This is kind of this listings on or off switch. So for instance, if you do end up having a situation where the seller gets in contact with you and says, look, I need to pause all showings for a little while because we got COVID, or there's a family emergency, or the house needs to get some serious repairs, whatever the case may be, if you guys need to stop the showings, just toggle this switch and it'll prevent anybody from putting in any requests, even a month from now. Now, there are some options that are a little bit more nuanced, and that's actually going to be these auto confirm and appointment restriction settings. Now, the auto confirm is actually kind of what it says on the box there. When we click on this add auto confirm rule, it's going to provide us with a time frame for us to be able to establish that any listing, or excuse me, any showing that's requested will automatically be approved, regardless of what who it is or what time it is. It will still prevent people from doing overlapping appointments if you have that turned on. But this is a great way to make sure that instead of having to go through and be like, yeah, I mean, this is a time of day that works for me, it works for my client, I just have to hit accept. You can just set it to automatically accept any appointments during that time frame. Now, there's a couple different ways for us to establish this. We can either do a timed rule, which means that I'm going to be setting up a specific time frame during which all appointments will be approved. So let's say that I did 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I'm going to have this either be timed rule, which I set up with a specific time frame, or you can do an all-day rule. And then additionally, it also needs to know when to apply these particular settings. So we can either do a one-time rule, which means that I'm going to actually establish a specific day that this is going to be available for, or I can set up a repeating rule where it requires a start date and an end date, and we can set up when that particular rule will apply. So for instance, Monday through Friday from 5 to 8, it's going to automatically approve that. I'm going to set the end date to be the last day of my listing agreement. So I hit save, and it's going to try and indicate that here with every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 5 to 8 starts on the 8th. Now, if I need to see more about this, you can't really click on this to enter into that, but you can always start it up from scratch. Again, there's just 2 sections that you need to fill out. So you can always just hit the X, get rid of it, and start something else up. So let's say that I wanted to do the all day rule. I'm going to say that maybe this Saturday, all of the appointments, no matter what time of day that they've requested, will automatically be approved. Now, not to worry, I know that it shows midnight to pretty much midnight the next morning. This is not indicating to us that this is actually going to allow people to schedule an appointment at 5 in the morning or something like that. There's still going to be some automatic restrictions the system offers that they can't schedule before certain times or after certain times. If I remember right, I think it's 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. or it might be 10 p.m. I'll have to double check. There's a difference between the lockbox system and the SentriKey system, or the showing service side of the system, because they don't want people to get into a property, have the key, and then not be able to open the lockbox again. But showing service side of things is a little different. I'll double check that. Now, we also have the appointment restrictions. The appointment restrictions are actually going to block off time periods. So similar to the way that this auto confirm was just going to say everything should work, the appointment restrictions will work the same way that the overlapping appointments function works, where a certain time period will just not be allowed at all. Now, you guys can see that I've already established one that was every Sunday and Wednesday, just no appointments can be done at all. If I don't want that anymore, just hit the X to get rid of it. But the add restriction option is going to function the exact same way that the auto confirm did, where we choose either a timed rule, all day rule, a one-time rule, or a repeating rule. So I'm going to say that we have a timed rule. I don't want any appointments between early morning at 5 p.m. And we're going to set this as repeating. Go. And again, Monday through Friday. So what we've set up here is going to be effectively the inverse of what we had when we initially set up that auto confirm. So you guys can actually bump those up together. So for instance, if I wanted to set up that auto confirm where it was just going to automatically confirm appointments after 5, that'll allow people to not schedule Monday through Friday until the appropriate time. And then any appointment request put in after that will automatically be approved. This way you guys can actually set up some either really open-ended ones where just everything gets approved except for during certain time frames when you want to make sure that it's fine. And again, all of that's going to effectively allow you to create a go and show setup without actually having to switch this over to go and show, where it's just everybody can schedule whenever they want, no matter what. And actually, speaking of which, we already discussed a little bit about the appointment modes, but just as a reminder, confirm with any means that whenever we get to this contacts page, any of the people that have been given the opportunity to approve an appointment can actually approve that appointment without consensus. If we switch this back over to confirm with all, every single person that's attached to this listing, whether it's sellers or co-listing agents or whatever, will have to do an approval before that appointment actually gets confirmed fully. Now, the maximum appointment length, again, we also have an option to ensure that this particular listing gets the due time that it's needing. My favorite example of this was, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Seven, but there was the realtor that was only showing the apartment during 10-minute intervals because there was a train that went right outside the window. We have it just set up for 30, 60, 90, and 120. We're not trying to fool anybody with our stuff, so we leave those open-ended. But again, if you have a small property, might not need much time. And if you guys don't allow overlapping appointments, setting it to 30 minutes might make sure that people kind of get in there, see what they need, and leave so that you can have somebody else come and do the same. All right, so set that appropriately for each and every listing. The advance notice required for showings, we've got the 4, 6, 8, whatever. If you guys would like to have at least a little bit of prep time before each and every showing, or if you guys want to be there for the showings, get that advance notice required. This is also helpful if you guys have clients that are going to be there and they don't want to end up having somebody put in an appointment for 30 minutes from now when, you know, they're in the middle of a shower or something like that. So you can set this to an appropriate time. The example I always use is this is out in Kingfisher. That's about a 3-hour drive from Tulsa. So if I'm at my office in Tulsa and then I need to go out to a showing that's happening at this Kingfisher property, I need at least a 4-hour lead time in order to be able to get out there and appropriately show the property. So set this all, again, for each and every listing. And if I needed to switch between those listings, I click on the drop down, or I can go back to the listing screen and then click on the next item that I want. Now, the instructions are going to be separate. And again, this is on a listing by listing basis, but the instructions are going to boil down to just some basic things. This is one of the screens that I think Showing Time had really well made. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get the same level of quality on this as well as the feedback form in the future. But the instructions do give us some basic options. We've got some standard instructions here. We've got the lockbox instructions, alarm instructions. And then finally, we have the additional information section. So there's no autofill or anything like that quite yet, but make sure that you guys include everything that the client, or excuse me, the listing agent would actually need to be able to complete the showing appropriately. So let them know where the SentriLock lockbox is if you guys are using that, or if you guys have some kind of mechanical combo box, make sure it's mentioned where that's located, or if there's some code that's associated with it. Also, make sure that any of the alarm instructions are put in, not just the arm and disarm code. Make sure that you include any of the other instructions, like if you have to hold down the asterisk for a while before it'll allow you to put in the code, things like that. Just out of curiosity, hit that raise hand button if you guys have ever been in a situation where the alarm wouldn't turn off during a showing. Because I've been to a showing where that was the problem, and it was, I mean, the realtor was monumentally embarrassed, and I felt bad for them that was the situation. But yeah, it looks like we've got, oh wow, almost half of you guys have had that. So again, this section is very important. Make sure that you provide that. It's also worth mentioning the showing instructions that are provided on here will actually be emailed or potentially even texted to whoever it is that's going to be doing the showings. So make sure that you guys include the appropriate information, because that could make the difference between whether or not this house gets sold or not, because it might just be that that was the perfect buyer, but because there was something weird going on, they didn't really get an appropriate view of the property. So next we have our contacts section. Now by default, there should only be yourself that shows up on this list. We do have a couple different ways for us to appropriately add a second person to either do the confirmations or to help out. So first and foremost, we have our homeowner notifications. This is going to be a separate section. This is actually going to be referring directly to the key box side of things. Since it's the first button, I want to make sure you guys are aware this is not going to notify them of any showing requests. This is only going to notify them if somebody has been in the property. So this is going to be related to the key box side of things. So just remember that when you get to this homeowner notifications button, it's only for the key boxes. If you guys are writing down any notes or anything like that, it would be worth it to mention that. Next, we have our add co-listing agent. And if you guys notice over here on the left, I actually have my co-listing agent options already put in here. But if I go to co-listing agent, I can also search for anybody else in the system. So like Ethan Long, I mentioned earlier, I can do a search for him, and he is not coming up. Since he's not confirmed, I'm only going to have access to Rachel. Notice when I start typing her name in, it gives me the auto function. And if I type in Veronica, same thing. So make sure that they have to be added already. Make sure that the person that you're wanting to help with is actually added as a team member. They have to confirm on their side. And then once that's put in, you guys can add them as a co-listing agent. Again, this roster that you have over on the left is going to be who you can add to your listings. Now, whenever we added in my co-listing agent, you notice how we have the checkboxes here. There's a couple that are actually not able to be unchecked. The message center is just built in not only to the top here of the website, but this is also going to send notifications through to the app. Now, we also have the choice of text messaging or emailing listing or showing information so that they can either do the confirmation, or after a confirmation has been done, you can get a text or email of those appointments. Now, we have ours set up right now with the appointment required confirm with any. So when I'm on this page with the contacts, I've got my Veronica Jones listed here. If Veronica ends up receiving the notification and confirms that appointment, the appointment is confirmed even if I have not taken a look at it. Again, the confirm with all will require that both Veronica and I have done the approval. Now I'm going to remove Veronica, and we're actually going to do add client. Now the add client option is actually going to pull up our list of clients that we've already put into the system. If you don't see them on here, we're going to have to jump out of that screen and go to the My Clients section up here at the top. So I keep on not saving my preferences. This is my mistake. There we go. Save. Hey, look at that. All right, my clients. Now the client roster is going to provide us with anybody and everybody that we wanted to associate with a particular listing. Or if we end up having a buyer that's interested in things and we want to keep track of what we've shown them, or even just if you guys have somebody that's using the lock boxes, they'll be added in here as well. But what we need to do at this point is I need to make sure that I add in the client that I'm going to be talking to. So in this case, I'm going to hit add client, put in their name, email address, and their cell phone number. 8675309. All right, create profile. So what this has done is I've actually added a new client to my roster. You can see them show up on my client roster list along with everybody else that I've added in. I can click on their name. So like if I clicked on blah, blah, notice how its button changes to profile. If I click on first, last, and then go to profile, I can click on client profile to see their information, or I can click on client properties, which actually shows me any of the properties that we might have shown. I can click add property, search for it in my listings, or we can do selling and click add property. And I can see that property that I was just working with by just typing in the address. So, oh, and actually, this is a known issue that we're dealing with right now. We have people that are working on this. The listings may end up showing duplicates. If I try to connect this to this one that does not have the word street, and notice it doesn't even have my profile picture that we saw earlier, this is the real listing. This is a kind of duplicate fake listing. The easiest way to tell is because it doesn't include the street type. Just as a reminder, for whatever reason, a lot of people have been adding listings into the system recently without the street type. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. It also causes a lot of issues getting the mapping put in, blah, blah, blah. But this is just another thing that's kind of in that domino effect of problems that could cause. But anyway, whenever you guys search for a listing, always make sure that you're looking for the one that has the most complete address, even if there's a photo on the other listing. So I'm going to click on this one. Now what this has done is it's actually set me up to have this particular property as the seller's property. Now I can click on manage notifications, and it actually circles me back to where we just were. So if you guys remember, we had that add contact or add client we could choose from the roster. But if we end up wanting to add an individual, even if they haven't been put into my client's roster yet, you have to go to my clients, add them, put in their contact information. And then once you connect to the property, you can come back here and set up all the notifications that they want. Now, just as a reminder, since I've found whenever I was out doing outreach training, there are some areas in our MLS jurisdiction, quote unquote, where people will actually be a little bit different about how they do approvals for appointments. Here in Tulsa, it's very common for people to be setting up their listings, and the listing agent themselves will be the one that does the appointment approvals. And then when I was down in Durant, Ada, I think even when I went out to Ardmore, a lot of people were more keen on having the seller do their approvals. It doesn't matter which way you guys want to set that up. The only thing you need to remember is that if you want the seller to be the one to do approvals, just leave the check marks for the can confirm appointments on their side. And if you want to do the approvals on your end, make sure that their checkboxes are unchecked and that you check the text and email for yours. Again, this way, you'll be the one receiving a text message, an email, and a notification in the app. If they have the client version of the SentriKey app, they'll also receive a notification, but it's just something that is very unlikely. Unless you told them specifically to download the SentriKey app, they won't see this notification. Then over here on the right, we have notify of confirmed or canceled appointments. I have it set up so that they'll receive a text and an email whenever I've approved that appointment. Or if I switch this around, if they approve an appointment, I'll at least get a text message or an email. So make sure that you save whatever your preferences are in here. let's head over to the feedback form. Now, the feedback form is another one that's, again, relatively basic for now. We're going to be trying to make improvements to this and add some extra features along the way. There's some more pressing issues at the moment, so we're trying to make sure that we keep our laundry list of improvements that we would like them to make relatively short for now. But for now, the basic form that they give is the required question: is your buyer interested in this listing? What's the overall rating? And add any comments. There's also some optional questions over here to the right that you can choose either the exterior condition, the value for price listed, overall floor plan, or interior condition. And again, just choose these appropriately. So again, each listing gets their own options. If you guys know that the exterior condition is just great, you guys don't need to ask anybody about that. You can simplify your form so that it doesn't include anything that's going to be kind of more obvious. So once you guys have made your changes, make sure you hit save. Let's head to reports. Now, the reports used to be kind of basic when we were looking at things in showing time, and it was just, almost useless in CSS. But when we're looking at the listing activity here for this particular property in the reports section, you can see the total number of appointments. You can see our 7-day trends, 30-day trends. We also get this cool graph that actually takes some of the details from our feedback and puts it into a nice little pie chart. This makes it a little bit easier for you guys to help clients visualize exactly how popular their property is. You can also see all of the detailed feedback. And up here at the top, we have the option to just export this. This is another request that we have in right now. This is kind of showing an inordinate amount of information per page. It's just too much. Anyway, so they are trying to get that a little bit more streamlined. We also have the appointment history. The appointment history is going to show us anything and everything that was requested, whether we confirmed it, it was pending, it got canceled, they don't care. Every single time this was interacted with, somebody is going to have a little note on here. Now, this also gets the opportunity to see who it was that was showing it, who's the listing agent. So if we find that, a few weeks ago I had Rich send a client out, I can get back in contact with him using his email from here, or Mike, whatever. Now, finally, we have our notifications page. The notifications actually aren't going to be related to any of the showings directly. This is actually a notification going out in regards to this property. So we have send notification, send this message to, and then we see agents that have shown this property, copy to all listing agents and co-listing agents. So like, again, if I had that team member set up or whatever, I can make sure that they see that I've already sent something out to the clients. You do have the option, I think this is incredibly, I don't know who made this decision. I'll just leave it at that. But we do have the option to send it to all agents in my office. For those of you guys who are in a bigger office, this sounds like a nightmare if everybody were to send off showing notifications or, hey, I got a price increase or decrease, come show the property again. But they do give you guys the option for that. You can also copy this to all listing contacts. Now, if you do have a seller that's connected to this, whenever you're sending off the notification where it says copy to all listing contacts, this is also going to allow the client to see that you are actually putting in some work outside of what you guys might have already discussed. So they'll see this email when it gets sent off so that they can see, all right, look, we got a fence was repaired. Feel free. Oops. Excellent. So after we're done, we hit send. And again, this is going to go out to only the people that have shown the property. Now, if you guys see from my appointment history, that might not be everybody that I'm seeing on here. If I only had canceled appointments for Mike Brumberich or Rich McGonigal, whenever we end up sending that notification, it's only going to go to the people that had confirmed appointments. So just keep that in mind. But it's a great way to make sure that people are kept kind of abreast of the situation so that they don't end up missing out on opportunities. But That's about it for the listing settings. I did want to mention as well, there is the My Feedback section. This shows any of the feedback that either I've received, this is the new feedback, or any unanswered feedback. So anytime somebody has actually gone through and done a showing, but they never ended up responding to the feedback options. And then we also have the option to see any of the showings that I've gone out to do. So anytime I've gone out and forgot to do the feedback, or if I went out and submitted some feedback for somebody's listing. This is an easy way to kind of keep track of whether or not you had a buyer that went out to take a look at a house. You don't remember quite exactly what the details were of that property, check the feedback that you provided. Now, finally, we have this button up here at the top right. This is where we can see our messages. This is also going to provide us with some details about, all right, I've got a showing that was requested. There's going to be a little option down here to allow us to see the details about that showing. This is where we can do the approvals, confirmations, et cetera, et cetera. It's all going to be up under this little envelope idea. Now, they also recently added in a chat section. Now, the chat is going to be kept on a listing by listing basis, which means that if you guys do end up having maybe a conversation that's a little bit more specific to the showing that you guys are going to, you can actually start a conversation with the showing agent or the listing agent, excuse me, and send messages back and forth. This way, it's actually being kept outside of any other forms of communication you guys already have going on, like text messages or Facebook Messenger, emails, whatever. So it keeps the conversations a little bit less murky. But we do have a question. Remind me again how to add co-list agent when they aren't coming up in the search bar. Oh, and just as a reminder, you have to go back to the Manage My Account or the My Settings page, and under Account Settings, make sure that they're added as a team member first. So for instance, even after I sent this just earlier in class, Ethan saw this notification in SentriKey, hit the approve option, and now both of us have access to each other's listings. And if I needed to add him as a co-listing agent on that listing that I have, click on the name, go to contacts, add co-listing agent. And now when I search Ethan, I can find him and save him as a co-listing agent. Oh, and actually another question, is there a way to cancel an appointment that was already confirmed? And that's actually going to be back on our dashboard. So when we head into the dashboard, I'm going to see any of the appointments that had been requested. I can click on each individual appointment. That'll show my appointment details. So like, for instance, I've got this one on the 19th. If the appointment was still active, not currently canceled, I can get in here, and then there's an appointment details option that allows me to cancel it. So if you guys do end up, again, worst case scenario, you can't do a showing, you guys can go through and cancel any of those showings that you already have established. All right, so let's head back into Matrix. Now, all of this that we've discussed so far has been focused on just this side of the SentriKey showing service. So just inside the setup and the scheduling and so on and so forth. Whenever we actually have the SentriKey showing service set up for a specific listing, there's one piece of information you guys have to understand about this. Get into your listing. Under the form that you have, again, this will say vacant if it's vacant land. In my case, it's a residential property, so I click residential. Head to the broker disclosure finance, or if it's just a vacant land, it'll actually say broker disclosure. And down here, we've got showing contact. Now, if you guys don't write down anything else, again, this is an important key element. Without changing this showing contact to say SentriKey, you will not have a little icon that shows that you can set up the scheduling through showing time or through the showing service. So in my case, I've got this listing. When I search for this listing and click on the listing number, underneath the photo, I can see a little icon that says SentriLock Appointments. If I have this set to call agent or lockbox or whatever the case may be, it's not going to do it. You have to make sure that each of your listings has the showing contact sent to SentriKey. Otherwise, it won't show this icon and people won't know that you actually have access to scheduling through that system. There we go. And this is the end of our class. Our last thing that we needed to mention was just that this is what the scheduling system looks like. You notice that this has that lead time put in there, so it's not allowing me to schedule anything until, since it's exactly 2 o'clock right now, I'm not going to be able to schedule an appointment until 6 or later. What's the last time we could do? Oh yeah, see, I knew 9 p.m. was the cutoff. Yeah, you can't actually schedule at 9 p.m. If I set up an appointment at 8:45, can't schedule that. There we go. So see, it's not even allowing me to schedule an appointment at 8:45 because it doesn't have 15-minute increments. But I want to say that the earliest you can schedule it is 8 a.m. It's funny to me that they actually show the whole time frame, even though that's not, like, these aren't even applicable. You can't do something at 7 a.m. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of little things that we're trying to work with them on. Again, just giving it that final bit of polish. I might as well mention this. Class is officially over, so you guys can leave. Anybody that was here on time will be able to receive that CE credit. But I did want to point out, this tool was actually introduced in response to Showing Time being bought out by Zillow. They had been working on a system like this for a while, but it kind of got pushed to the forefront, and they've been working on it feverishly ever since. Just as a reminder, SentriLock is actually something that's not going to get bought out by Zillow. You don't have to worry about some other company trying to scoop it up or anything. So if you guys are wanting to have a reliable solution for the future, please get in there, give it a try, find out if this is something that you like. And again, anything and everything that you find that you want to have improved or changed, or if there's some functionality that you guys would like to have added, reach out to us, let us know, and we can pass that feedback along. I mean, we've passed, oh man, it's got to be in the dozens of people's recommendations and complaints and so on and so forth over to them, because we want this to be a functional, useful tool for you guys. And the only way we can really know whether or not something is working properly is if you guys communicate that to us. So in the interim, make sure you guys get in contact with us on any problems that you're having, or just reach out to us in general if you guys have anything that you need. Here's our contact information on the screen. And if you guys are ready to head out, you can go ahead and leave. I'm going to leave the session open for a couple minutes if you do end up having any questions. But thank you guys so much for joining. Oh, thank you, Elena and Anne. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you guys in future class. And just make sure to keep your masks on when you're around people, social distance, and hopefully we can start doing in-person classes again. All right, have a good one.